So due to all of this, a large part of our job is to make sure the people we deal with are referred to the appropriate services that can help and support them. And we often do work closely, as Rachel said, with school SENCOs, educational psychologists and SEN officers. We're often involved in the formulation of education healthcare plans, and we attend CAF meetings. Again, as Rachel's mentioned, early intervention is critical for these children. But we also work with the children themselves on strengthening their resilience and taking ownership of their NF1, because that has been shown in research to really help people cope with this condition. We help with the education of parents as well, so that they are able to support their children better. And we work with other agencies and support networks who have more experience in different areas. Even with all this though, we only have a small amount of children who actually get a diagnosis of ADHD. Due to the inattentive nature of the condition and the crossover with autistic spectrum disorder, it's often difficult to get that definitive diagnosis. This can also be affected by the pressures on school SENCOs, educational psychologists and CAMs, which has been mentioned by so many people already today. However, many authors wonder whether we should be treating learning and behaviour in NF1 as a totally different phenotype. As Rachel has already said, many children don't fit in a box. Although this is an interesting perspective though, looking at these children totally separately as a total separate group might not help them access the services they need. So we're constantly looking for ways to support our families and children and adults better, and help others understand the multifaceted nature of the condition. I'm sure that Rachel will agree with me that working with many of our families can be a totally humbling experience, and we're very proud to be part of a very small, close-knit team who can have a small part in improving people's lives. We'd like to thank you all for listening to us today, and we're happy to try and answer any other questions you may want to ask.
Hello. You didn't mention anything about pain or pain management.
Yeah, it's massive in NF1, but we tried to do our talk today because it's the ADHD Foundation from that perspective. So yes, pain management is a huge problem with NF1, particularly nerve pain, which can be particularly hard to manage. So yes, it is a huge issue with a lot of our patients.
And do you find that you get any support from physical services?
You mean sort of pain clinics, that type of thing? Yes. It very much depends on areas. Rachel and I both we work in a geographic area, so we work across trusts, and I don't know about you, Rachel, but I find some areas are much better than others at providing that kind of support and understanding the condition a bit more.
I think like everywhere, services are so stretched, and we do have pain management teams that we can refer into, dependent on area. I mean, my colleague over there, Susan, and I both cover Cumbria, Northumberland, Teesside and Newcastle, and there's huge variation in referrals into pain teams. It's very, very difficult.
And then you must find the diagnosis of ADHD and ASD a barrier to some extent to access to those services.
It is, it's huge, it really is. And again, say for example in Cumbria, diagnosis of autism is good, but diagnosis of ADHD isn't quite so good. But then in Newcastle it seems to be that that's the other way around. So it does pose a real problem, and I think that a huge amount of the patients that we deal with are underdiagnosed in both areas.
I find the same in my areas as well. As you can't assume it's the same in one area as another. It's not, it just changes completely.
Have you had any success with accessing personal health budgets?
You mean through schools, you mean education and healthcare plans that?
Well, through mental health services.
I haven't, but I'm relatively new in the job, so I don't know if Rachel's had any experience.
It's funny actually because we went down to London for a meeting with the other nurse specialists, and we'd all done an audit on our telephone consultations with patients, and we had to rate how much time we were spending in all sorts of different areas. And definitely in the North East, Susan and I felt that a huge amount of our time was taken up with psychological problems that patients were having, and we just don't have that resource.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions that we have?
We'd just like to say actually that Susan Musson, who sat there in the corner, who gave us away, she's got a table outside with lots and lots of information on neurofibromatosis type 1, lots of written information. So if anyone wants any further details, they can make their way over to Susan.
Okay, I'll take this opportunity to thank you again, and we're grateful